I think you are referring to A Beast for Norn, and that is the one where they get to bring their genetically made monsters to fight in the monster fighting pit. Is that the one you're talking about from the Tough Voyaging series?
No, that's not the one. That is a good one. I do
Oh,
like A
okay.
Beast from
Are you
Norton.
talking
But there's the
about
one where
Sand
they like
Kings? You talking about Sand Kings?
no, it was a lot. It might not have been Thousand Worlds. It was definitely Martin, anyways. Yeah, I don't think it was Thousand Worlds. I think it was just one of his other sci-fi ones. If I find what book it was in, I'm sure I have it around. But there's one where it's like, yeah, there's no wars, so occasionally people just sign up for basically private wars.
What? Okay,
Um,
so yeah, maybe I'm
where
maybe I'm
it's like going out and playing paintball, but you just actually murder people instead.
maybe I'm missing something then because I don't remember that story. The one I remember is Beast for Norn, where it's like a fighting pit with monsters, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, Sand Kings. I remember Sand Kings.
It might not have been Thousand Worlds because I know I also have just a random collection of short stories of his, not all of which are Thousand Worlds. So if it's not a Thousand World one, I could very well be confusing it for that book.
Well, send me the
Uh,
title to it when you look it up because I've read I want to say I've read probably like 90% of what his stuff is out there, but I have not read everything there is Martin wise.
I mean, he has a lot of stuff. I'd be really impressed and kind of suspicious if you said you did.
That would be Preston Jacobs levels of commitment. Now, but I did try to acquire basically everything that I could of his that I could find. So I have a lot of I have a lot of audiobooks and I have a lot of PDFs just of his stuff. But I don't own any physical copies of a Martin work.
Classic. Yeah, I got a bunch of.
Do not look down on me, Martin. I'm sorry. I don't have a lot of money, and for years your work was free on YouTube. Like it was just there to be listened to. So you
Yeah,
got
I
just
never actually bought Game of Thrones, and then most of the Thousand World stuff I just got on that PDF Preston put up. Uh, but a lot of the other stuff I just like I just finished. I just finished Fever Dream, and like most of that, I just get it at my local used bookshop. Has a bunch of Martin stuff because it was
oh,
really
that's fucking
popular when Game
cool.
of Thrones came out. So
That's
like
fucking
they're like
cool.
basically trying to give away a Song of Ice and Fire there. Last time I checked, they're all like 3 books for like €12 or something.
I think that Martin's has put out a lot of works that are not even able to be bought like first edition anymore. Like anything he put out way back in the day. Like yeah, you can't go buy a new copy of pretty much any of that shit. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, some of them you can, but like in the House of the Worm, some of those things, there's like a few that they've done like reprints, re-releases of, but holding the old books is kind of cool. The old covers especially just look fucking awesome.
I love the old covers for Song of Ice and Fire in particular. I just love that sort of style of fantasy illustration. I always love it.
Yeah, if there's any real reason to own like first edition books or like not first edition, but like is it first hand. If there's any reason to actually own the book on like non-digital format, it's the fucking art just to like hold it and look at it on the cover. Like it's just cool. It's cool.
I like having physical books as well. Like I'll really only use PDFs when I have to, um, but I just like having a physical thing. It's learning should be smelly, as Giles said in that one Buffy episode.
Oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference. That is reaching back to how old we are. For all you young listeners out there who don't know what Buffy is, which is increasingly more and more people, it was a show back around the same time that there were dinosaurs. Moving into shows, we were going to talk about. I hope this thing is recording right now. I think it is. Looking at the levels, I think we're doing okay. But we were going to talk about House of the Dragon, the hottest of the D, because you said that you had some observations that you really enjoyed, and I also had some that I really enjoyed, which is rare because usually I'm just like a real fucking asshole, and I'm incredibly hard to please when it comes to shows, especially HBO shows.
Yeah, so so particularly episode 3 had a lot of stuff I really liked. Um, Part of it is you see a reflection of things that Martin has been salty about in the past. Uh, so I heard from somewhere that apparently he didn't like that hunting scene in season 1 of Game of Thrones, where it's just I think it's Barristan, King Robert, and I think Renly's there. Um, where it's just the three of them sort of wandering around the forest hunting. Uh, and he's complained about that it's a big royal hunt, that it should be a huge event where there's massive tents and yada yada. And we got that. We had our big fancy royal hunt. It's finally happened. He no longer has that bee in his bonnet, I suppose.
So that's funny that you say that, because I also thought that the Royal Hunt was pretty cool, for the exact same reason. I don't remember the Royal Hunt in the Game of Thrones TV show, which might be because it was not very big, like you're describing. But the Royal Hunts in the books are always just fucking big as hell. And I'm like a major hunting, hunting history knowledge kind of guy, but I do recall that hunting in Europe did get to be a pretty big affair for nobles and royals. Like that's not unusual for it to be this large, involving lots of people, multi-day or multi-week, kind of like vacay in terms of what they're doing. So I felt like that was true to the books, and then it also felt more like, yeah, this is probably what hunting would have been like for the extravagantly rich. I mean, fuck, it's probably what hunting is still like for the extravagantly rich. I don't know. I don't hunt shit, but it reminded me a lot of that episode of King of the Hill where they go to La Grunta. If you've ever watched the show King of the Hill.
I have. I don't remember that episode though.
Oh, so Bobby's like, they want to get Bobby to kill a deer because like everyone's doing it. It's like the hip thing for 12-year-olds. Like, turn 12, shoot your first deer. And so
Oh yeah,
finally,
yeah.
yeah, finally Hank takes him out to La Grunta, where they take care of everything, like, quote unquote. And they just put him up in this little box, and the deer, like, it has like a mechanical spinner that spits food out, and the deer just walk up and put their heads down so you can shoot them, and they just can't even shoot them. They're just like, this is too, like, horrible. But yeah, that was the La Grunta experience. I think I'm gonna put some audio from that episode over that clip when I do my review of the show.
Yeah, now that you describe it, I vaguely remember that. I was also distracted. There's an American Dad episode that is frighteningly similar, uh,
Oh,
where
where it's just
where
about hunting things that can't fight back, or they're trained to be shot or whatever.
yeah, Stan takes Steve out hunting, and instead of like actually hunting, they have like all of their hunt basically with their like CIA drones and stuff.
Oh
Uh,
god.
yeah, I thought it was really nice. Plus, even like the way it becomes weirdly political, also struck me as really true to history. That you have everyone, because it's a time when all the nobles are together, even when they're not the sort of people who are at court. So you have the Lannister who's trying to marry the princess, and he's trying to pressure the king into doing the kill with the spear he gave him, and so he can say, I gave the spear a weapon or the king a weapon he really liked, and just sort of all the political machinations that go behind around a hunt. I thought that was just really neat touches, that again the original show kind of flopped on.
Yeah, no, exactly. I all had all the same opinions about that, where I was like, the weaving of the politics and the fact that, yeah, it wasn't just like the static conversations about Lannister being like, your Grace, I'd super love access to the throne. It was like there actually was involved with what was going on, and like I think they've done politicking in the show so much better, where they can have these good scenes where something is occurring like in the background, and then you have this like overt and covert politicking going on at the same time. It's juggling a lot, but it's really well done, I think, in that department of like the political interactions and the conversations between some of these like lead figures in the show. Um, which I would say, like, my main complaint is that they don't do the same justice to the action sequences. The action, it's like it's all the politics is blood. You know, it's fucking just like it's fucking visceral. It's awesome, and all the action is cheese. It's just fucking cheesy and full of holes.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair complaint. I did sort of like the way they were tying some of the action and politics together at the end of episode three. Um, so dwelling, I think it gets mentioned in episode one as well, but I remember it became a bigger topic in episode two, that conflict over on the stepstones, and then in episode three we get to actually see the fighting. Um, but I thought the politics of that was super entertaining
Yeah, it
and
was.
super interesting,
It was exactly.
because
I loved watching the different parts of House Valerian and the arguments there between I forget, but Laenor and his uncle. I don't remember what his uncle's name is, but they were having a great little argument, and then there's the whole like Damon's position, and do they want to like say anything to Damon? Like, yeah, all the politics, great, all the discussion, great, and then the actual fighting, I was like, it's so cheese, it's ham and cheese.
oh yeah, like some of the fight scenes itself were sort of like particularly Damon just just single handedly destroying like dozens of guys on
I
his
know,
on
yeah.
his quest to go kill the crab. Like yeah, that was kind of cheesy, but the background to it thought was super interesting because like they'd been petitioning the crown for at least the previous episode that you need to send soldiers there,
Yeah.
and then Damon is like noticeably pissed and I guess is underselling. He completely just started beating up with his helmet the messenger that told him the king's now sending those soldiers that they theoretically wanted. Um, and then sort of immediately goes on that highly risky mission on his own to bring out the crab feeder. And I thought that was such a great way to show the sort of rising tensions in House Targaryen. That and like the way that Damon is recognizes he needs to be able to have a win and show I'm the one doing this when the king didn't do anything, and the way that the king doing something sort of messes up those plans.
Yeah, no, I thought that was really, really great. In a lot of ways, they've kind of given life to politics and characters that um, wasn't there in the books. Like just a kind of side note track off. I mean, like I've loved the whole development of Alicent Hightower's character and her relationship with her father and the king and with Rhaenyra. And I've loved the development of Rhaenyra's character. Like it's really, really cool because you don't get anything about these characters very detailedly in actually like Fire and Blood. And so like same thing with Damon and with the way he interacts. Like he was so like Damon is sometimes cheesy, but I love the way that they've done the interactions between him and his brother and everything. It's like they've just brought a lot of life into like this stale political shit. And they've made the politics and the interactions between the characters just phenomenally good, like by comparison to Game of Thrones, especially. But like, I find myself like actually like legitimately like in the political scenes, I'm not looking for shit to crap on or anything. I'm generally like enraptured in what's occurring, and so oftentimes I'll miss shit that doesn't make any sense or whatever because I'm like, it was a good scene, like just caught you up in it.
The one thing that I didn't like with the politicking, which sort of isn't actually politicking, I guess it's more the political symbolism, is so they talk about how the White Hart was is like a symbol of kingliness, I suppose we'll call it. It's a sign that it's going to be a good ruler. Um, and they're hunting that white hart. They're pretty sure they have a white hart in the hunt, but
Yeah,
it
and then
turns
it's
out
not
it's
a
it's
White
just
Heart.
a
Yeah,
normal heart. And I thought that was really nice, subtle, just subtle symbolism that the king sort of doesn't know what's going on and isn't actually being a good king. Same with how he keeps cutting himself on the throne. And I thought all that was great. Then you get that symbol towards the end of the episode that the White Heart really reveals itself to Princess Rhaenyra, and wow, that's I just that
yeah, the
just
White
seems
Heart.
so much. like cramming this in. Like I thought that they were sort of lathering it on a bit too thick
Yeah,
there.
the white heart out of nowhere pops out. It's like, and that was the thing. It's like we already got that, and that's what bothers me about it is like, yeah, the same, maybe not quite the same complaint with battles and fighting, but with mini scenes that involve sort of more of like the overt or the aggressive stuff in the show. I feel like they just beat you over the head with it, and I'm like, no, showing us that the other heart wasn't the white heart confirms that his stuff about not knowing who to like that already shows us that like Aegon the baby is not a better ruler. Like we get it. Like that makes sense. That all lines up with what we've seen in the previous scenes, which is like him not really giving Rhaenyra the reins, and him fucking being conflicted over who he should choose to be his successor, and getting all drunk and talking to his wife about it. Like it wasn't a white heart. That's the solution to that's the answer to the problem, or whatever you want to say. You know what I mean? Like, and then the addition of the actual white, but the white heart then does show up. It's like it's too much. Like we got it. We got the message the first time.
Yeah, that's basically my exact thoughts. Yeah, putting it in at the end. I did enjoy her adventures out with Sir Cole. It is Sir Cole, isn't it?
Yeah, Sir Kristen Cole. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've enjoyed that too. We don't know much about Kristen Cole, at least not from what I remember. Like in the book series, like he never like. I don't recall in Fire and Blood ever having any sort of serious time to like be in his mind or anything. So like it's fun to kind of see their interpretations of what this character would have been like prior to him becoming Kristen Cole the Kingmaker.
yeah. It was just a fun little scene of two characters being characters,
Yeah.
and also the princess is super swole. I need arm strength like that. Hold off a boar with my bare hands. Like, damn, she got guns there.
I was gonna say the boar scene I felt was gratuitous. I would have just played it differently. I think it's cool to show her being able to do combat and killing because of her status in the war and the fact that she does go on to become a warring dragon rider. Um, I think it would have been cool if perhaps like Kristen Cole's armed with like several weapons, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what if he got up to take a piss and he has his dirk on him or whatever, like he feels safe, he feels protected, but he's taking a piss. Can't hold a sword and take a piss that easy unless you're Arthur Dane and you can kill all the Kingsguard while doing it. Um, but let's say he gets up to take a piss and he's not far away, but that's when the boar emerges from the brush, perhaps being chased by something else, and then she picks up the sword and the boar, rather than flipping her over and goring her, which it probably would have killed you at that point. It's a fucking boar. The boar runs itself onto the sword, and Cole turns around and is like, oh, fuck. I almost just literally got caught with dick in hand letting the princess die. Thank God she fucking knew what to do with that sword. And so then it would be like, yeah, the princess is not just, someone who's going to roll over and get murdered. When she sees something coming her way, she'll kill it. And it's like, that would be really direct. It's like, and it's a pretty instinctual response. Like, it's stick 'em with the sharp end, like from the Game of Thrones with Jon Snow talking to Arya about like, well, here's how you just if you fucking someone's coming at you and you got a sword in your hand, just stab them with it. Don't even think, just stab. And so I'm like, it would kind of tie in well thematically, but it would also be a rather actual instinctual response. So it wouldn't be something like, oh, she did a crazy backflipping sword move, even though she'd never been trained as an acrobat or a swordsman. It's like, that's what you do when someone charges at you and you're holding a sword in your hand. You stab them. And it would also then show her willingness to defend herself. So it's like they'd wrap it all up with like book metaphor and reference and theme and her defending herself, and Kristen Cole would be not protecting her, which is like what he does later on, and you'd get that cheeky chauvinism, or cheeky anti-chauvinism, I guess. He's holding his dick, not protecting the princess. Wink, wink. Like you check all the boxes because he does. He betrays her and becomes the kingmaker and stuff. So it's like you'd get like, but without him doing a moment of actual betrayal, you'd get like a reference. So I feel like you'd check all the boxes. You do all the narrative shit that would make it make sense. So I felt that that was a little goofy with him stabbing it and the boar's still alive and she kind of like stabs it a whole bunch. I was like, you kind of took the power out of the scene because like she's just like mindlessly stabbing a boar and then like doesn't wash her face, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, the still being bloody when she brings it to camp was a bit silly. I didn't think of that until you mentioned it, but yeah. Weren't they also like pretty close to water when that happened, or am I getting it confused? I know they were at a river at some
They
point.
had just ridden up to that stream when their adventure begins, or river rather. I don't stream, creek, river. I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's in the Kingswoods. I don't know if it's like a major thing. I'd have to look at a map, but there was a quite bathable body of water very nearby, and so that's why I was like, weird that you would be like so rugged you could kill a boar, but not so rugged you couldn't take a bath in the woods. Like I don't know, weird.
I mean, even if you aren't taking a bath, I could understand that. You know, she's a noble lady. You know, there's a man present. You know, don't go out bathing when you don't, particularly if you don't have another change of clothes that you're just gonna, immediately jump back into your dirty and now bloody dress. But like washing a face is so easy. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy. I don't know. And also something makes me feel like she wouldn't mind if Sir Kristen Cole caught a glimpse of that nudity because she seems like she's quite attracted to the young Kristen Cole. Being the hot young knight that he is, he seems to have enraptured her affections at least. And he seems to be like, it's funny too because he's kind of the opposite of the Lannister guy. He's pretty quiet and doesn't say a whole lot and is like kind of modest. Um, so it seems like she's definitely is more into that kind of personality, the way the shows play in their character development. So I feel like she'd be the one to make a move on Sir Kristen. I almost thought they were going to go there because and I had kind of forgotten about the book material about like what the sources said because I think there's conflicting sources on her interactions with Kristen Cole, but I believe that he is largely portrayed as the like does not touch the ladies kind of good knight. And that I could have sworn it was in the books that she did make some kind of advance and he like allegedly rebuked her, but it's all like totally unknown. So I was really curious what the show was going to do with that, if they were going to have them hook up, or if they were gonna, she was going to make an advance, and he was going to reject her. It was going to put a rift between them. But yeah, at the moment at least, it seems like she's pretty into Sir Kristen, and she would be very very much more happy with him hanging out with her than with the Lannister guy, right?
I definitely see that, and I could sort of see the show going there. Uh, I don't know, I also think that would just be so fun to get something like that. Because again, going as a medievalist, the whole courtly love where you pine for somebody that you can't have because of feudal obligations and yada yada. Like it's the perfect vehicle for something like that. So I hope it becomes like a fun, subtle, courtly romance tragedy more than a secret love affair or something. But I think that'd be a really fun dynamic to have.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. I mean, like, obviously her kids, people go on to accuse them of being from the Strongs, but we don't know. Maybe the show will go with a Kristen Cole potentially fathered them direction. I think the whole idea of them being Strongs is the fact that they have brown hair, and Sir Christian, he's got that brown hair, he's got that dark hair. So I mean, like they may go with some direction like that over the possibility of Strongs, or they may leave it like super ambiguous, where it's like the kids have darker hair, but who knows? Might be Kristen, might be Strong, might be Lenore. We don't know.
Yeah, all sorts of fun theories that could go into that. Speaking of theories, what do you think of those maesters in the past few episodes?
Oh, I was literally gonna say the same thing. I was gonna be like, speaking of theory. So yeah, no, I think the show appears at least, and this is kind of how it looks to me, So it looks like there's kind of a shit sliding downhill effect that is in line with the Maesters hate the dragons theory. Um, we see in the really first episode that Hightower, is going to pressure his daughter to go over and court the king. And we also see that Hightower is like, it seems like the Maester's like always just like looking over at him, and he's like looking back at the Maester. So we get, like, at least for me, we got the very distinct impression that the Hightowers and the Maesters are a team. And I am highly suspicious, obviously, that the Maester intentionally killed Emma Arryn so that the thing that Hightower was basically pushing his daughter to do could happen, because it seemed like she kind of knew that was coming. Like, I don't know, there's a whole, you could go into a whole thing there. But this Hightower Maester thing seems to be affirmed as the episodes continue, because it's like they definitely seem to be looking at each other and like talking to each other a lot, and they seem to be a team. And then we meet Hightower's brother, and it really seems like Hightower's brother has been the one telling Hightower what to do the whole time. So like Hightower's older brother has been just always like, oh yeah, that's your job, that's what you're gonna do. Oh, how's our boy? How's it? Like, it seems like this is like a well-contrived Hightower Maester conspiracy. And that parallels really heavily what it seems to be like in the books. Not only in the Fire and Blood books, but in the Ice and Fire books. And like, you'll know because you watch Preston Jacobs, but anybody else who hasn't watched Preston Jacobs, there's like a really old theory by a famous YouTuber that's kind of based on like, what I'm guessing was cooked up on the other forums and Reddit threads and in his mind and stuff. Like the idea that the Maesters are not good guys and they're trying to kill the Targaryens. And so like this whole Hightower Maester thing kind of rings of that Hightower's Maesters versus Targaryens deal. And that's why I thought that they were definitely going that direction on the show. It's like it seemed to me they were going that direction.
I definitely think that's there's something. Um, I don't know if I'm fully convinced yet. There is a Maester's conspiracy, um, but I would also say that that's also getting down to the fine details, as it were. Um, so I think definitely, the Grand Maester, the Maester at King's Landing is working with Hightower, Otto Hightower and his gang. I think that sort of just is true.
Yeah.
And it's more just, is it a personal loyalty in the same way that like Pycelle was loyal to the Lannisters, or is it, a larger conspiracy?
There's an institutional policy. Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah.
Is it a Pycelle or a policy?
Exactly. So yeah, it's edge of our seats kind of stuff. Can't wait to see more Maesters show up and be able to figure it out with what do two Maesters think.
I know, yeah. It'd be fascinating to see the Citadel at some point, and the Hightowers. I know, like just from like way back in the day, like reading like the Blacks and the Greens and shit, and watching some videos. The Hightowers play a really bizarre role in the war, because like as far as I know, they do like field an army, but they never like fight the Targaryens openly, even though they're like against them. It's well, like, obviously they're with the one side of the Targaryen family, but they partake in the war greatly while never partaking in any of the battles. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to watch how they do the Hightower involvement in the whole show and the war.
Wasn't there some prophecy, or was there just a fan theory that there was some prophecy about that?
No, there is a prophecy, and that's the theory. That's the theory. The theory is that there's a prophecy. Well, there is a prophecy about how the High Tower will be struck down and the Starry Steppe would burn if they've tried to face the Targaryens when Aegon lands. So if you interpret this prophecy as just like, if the High Towers and the Starry Steppe ever try to face a Targaryen, they will get destroyed. Then the theory is that's why they've never tried to face a Targaryen. That's why even during the dance, when the High Towers are on one side, they never fight any battles. They always use letters sent through the Maesters. And that's like Tumbleton and like the other letter that gets sent that like totally changes the war, and like Ulf the Hammer and Hugh the White, or Hugh the White and Ulf the Hammer, those guys. The idea is essentially that the High Towers and the Maesters use manipulation to win the war. when they also started the war. So they started the war and then they manipulated the war.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting to go down. I mean, I suppose there's always the more boring answer that that they're pulling a Mace Tyrell and not committing forces, so they can, when whoever wins, they can claim to always be on the right side.
Oh
But
yeah.
that doesn't sound as fun. I'm Team Prophecy. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it makes a lot of sense, not even just with the prophecy, but like with that reinforcing it. I do think it makes a lot of sense that the Maesters and the High Towers would be against the dragons, or against anyone really that's trying to rule over Old Town long term. Um, because like when you think about it, the Maesters are really into monopolizing political control, and they do it really subtly, but oh gosh, sorry, hiccup there for a second. They do it really subtly, but they're pretty damn good at it. And like Barbary Dustin makes that point in the later books, where she's like, "Oh yeah, they even like read the letters for people who can't read," and it's like that's a shitload of power. like the Maesters are like literally setting the seasons. They're like the Maesters fucking they kind of run the ship, and they do like they run the ship in this really like behind the scenes kind of way, but they definitely have a ton of fucking power. So like the idea that they would be opposed to anybody who's like trying to shape institutions that's not them, or the idea that they would just simply want to really control how much power the crown has as an institution, that makes a lot of sense to me. Like yeah, that kind of checks out.
Do we know how common literacy is? Like how many lords can't read? It seems, at least in the book canon or in the show canon, there was a lot of reading. Uh, and I feel like if I remember right, the books have a decent amount of, at least on the elite level, um, that most lords are reading.
Um,
So like, how often is the maesters reading letters to lords who can't read themselves like actually coming up?
so that's a really interesting question. Because like I honestly don't know, but I do know a fair amount of lords are illiterate, and most lords like leave like all their policy making up to the maesters. Like maesters are also just generally seem to encourage lords like going off and hunting and like doing like fucking rich people shit rather than ruling. Like it's interesting. I'm not gonna say every time, like all maesters every time, ever, because like there's plenty of rulers that like the maesters like them, but like in general, it seems to be really easy for the maester to become the kind of de facto administrator of the castles and the fiefs and such, and for the lord to just be like, well, I'm gonna take this time to hunt and have sex and make an heir, and then that heir will hunt and have sex and go to war. Like it's just, and of course the war is determined by the politics that are incredibly heavily controlled by the maesters. So it's like I don't know that it just like I said, it seems as though there's something to that whole idea.
So yeah, I mean there definitely is. Maesters could easily get up to all sorts of spooky things.
Yeah, so it's like
Can
what now?
here's if we really want to stretch things. Uh, can we blame the Maesters for the War of the Five Kings? I don't know if this is a theory I would believe, but just a realization I had is is you can sort of say the whole entire plot of A Song of Ice and Fire, at least the sort of parts that aren't about apocalyptic doom in the north, was because a maester says he found a box left by nobody in particular that contained hints about murder investigations.
Well, so I am fully in the camp that the War of the Five Kings is a Littlefinger thing because we know Littlefinger sent that box. He Littlefinger was the box sender. But I would say that like the real question is, did the Maesters start the Dance of the Dragons? That's the one that like there's some questioning on the table of like, well, was it all the Maesters or was it destined to happen? Like who can you 100% blame anybody for the Dance of the Dragons? But I think the War of the Five Kings, like, nah, you could pretty much blame. So I think the you could blame the war entirely on Littlefinger, but in terms of who could have stopped it, um, I think there's an argument that Varys could have stopped it. But no, I think I don't know. And this
I
is what's so
mean,
confusing to me is like the Maesters seem very politically powerful, but they also seem to have like literally no control over what's going on in King's Landing during the entire administration of Robert Baratheon. Like it's very odd.
well, I mean, that kind of makes sense because the whole idea of Maester conspiracies is that they can nudge lords into doing whatever they want. So somebody who's headstrong and just sort of doesn't care in the way Robert does. Like, what's a Maester gonna say to Robert that's really gonna like make him change his mind? He just is he's sort of so thick he's beyond influence. I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and so that kind of makes me feel like Robert's the ideal ruler for the Maesters to control because, like, once again, he's that guy who, if they're just like, hey, my lord, maybe you would benefit from a hunt, he'd be like, a hunt? Oh, it's a great idea, fucking nerd. I'll see you in 3 weeks. Peace out with the kingdom. Like that's how Robert Baratheon ran shit. Like it seemed like he was like, maybe I'm wrong, but like I feel like he left it to John Aaron, but like in the absence of John Aaron, oh man, the Maesters like they should have been ready for that. Like they should have been hands waiting for the kingdom to like 100% fall under Maester control. But maybe they're more subtle than that. Like I said, maybe they feel that having control over all of the lords on a lower level basically just kind of de facto gives them control over these like relatively weak administrations that don't have a lot of power.
I mean, I could sort of see that because definitely, I think we particularly sort of we put too much power in the administrations. Um, like the feudal system has a ton of power down on the lower lords. Um, but we're reading about kings and also are used to a modern society where the central governments do have a ton of power. Um, so I think that could be it. But I also, again, I sort of just like that idea that, particularly sort of post Robert, uh, the rulers are just doing so much wild shit that you can't really control them. Like particularly like Cersei, when Cersei is more powerful, like she just is doing so much stuff on a whim that even if you had somebody at the right place at the right time, what are you going to tell Cersei that's going to have her not do something wild and crazy? Um,
Yeah, Cersei seems like the kind of ruler that the Maesters would kill. Um, which is what's interesting. There's always kind of like conflicts in George R. R. Martin's writing to a degree. You know, what I mean, like it's a story, but when you look at it even as a story, you're like, wait a minute. If the Maesters like kill people for like asking questions about fucking like whether or not you should be like part of the solution or like doing the greater good or whatever, or if you ask a question about a dragon, they'll fucking murk you. Like, but they won't murk Cersei for just destroying the kingdom. They won't get together and just conspire to murder Euron like fucking just like way long time ago, like back when he was fucking young and was starting to first be a fucking problem.
I mean, to be fair, in the Euron case, where aren't there like very few maesters in the Iron Islands? Like that just isn't a place that they have a good grip on.
Yeah, I know
A lot of yeah, not maester people.
it's
Uh,
definitely it's definitely true. They have not much of a grip on the Iron Islands, and I think that's exactly the kind of thing that I feel like they would have been working hard on. Like they would have been like Pycelle would have been all up in Robert's ear, being like, "You gotta force all the Ironborn to take on two Maesters because they don't have enough book learning or some shit." Yeah, like that's my Pycelle impersonation apparently, but like that's why I think like I don't know if the level of control that they want to have or are said to have is true. You think they'd be doing some other actions that I'm like, well, they're not doing that, but I think those are more like inconsistencies versus like I think the intentions of the author is for us to feel like the Maesters are really trying to worm their way into all the aspects of rulership from like the ground up as much as they can.
I think the other solution is just we're sort of assuming the Maesters are some big unified force, um, and sort of like the conspiracies in the North. How it seems like there's a bunch of small conspiracies to overthrow the Boltons rather than one big everyone's in on it conspiracy. Like it'd be really weird if all of the Maesters are down to do their conspiracy, and instead, you would have sort of smaller enclaves within Maesterdom, each doing their own smaller scale operations, which again would make it harder for something like, killing Cersei. Like one, a few maesters in a small minor lord who no one's going to pay attention to if he dies, like they could get away with murdering him. But how do you murder the king of or the queen of the realm and not look suspicious is a bit harder to pull off.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's a fair point. I would agree. Like, so I would say that the institution of the Maesters is fundamentally doing what I'm saying that it's doing. Like, I would say that its job is to put Maester control onto all the portions of societal institutions so as to shape society, which is like that's kind of like the long form of like Marwyn's accusation when he says like the world the Maesters are building. Like whenever you accuse somebody of like shaping the world, you're kind of accusing them of like shaping the progression of society, like at least in this sense, like in the Game of Thrones world, when you're like they're trying to shape the fucking throne or the world or the kingdom or like, well, they're trying to shape the society. And like so like I feel like that is like the institutional goal of Maesterdom. But yes, I would agree with you that I think that there's a lot of factions that disagree with what that means or with how that should be done. And like obviously Marwyn represents one of those factions. He's a guy who's like he's all about book learning and stuff like that and doing things and taking actions and putting rulers on thrones and whatnot. But like he's not necessarily about the murdering the same people or shaping society the same way or getting rid of the dragons in the way that the other maesters he accuses of doing those things are, supposedly, doing.
I think the Marwyn stuff is interesting because that's one of the times where I think we do have like proper institutional doing things. I mean, I still think there's a lot of ways where you could say that Marwyn is a crazy conspiracy theorist, um, and I'm not sold on everything he goes on about. And like, would they actually murder people for it? I don't know if they would, but but you could easily see that they're anti magic just because they're the science guys, and they have that whole ritual with the glass candle lighting that shows that magic is dead. Um, but then you also have to say, if magic has been dead for a long time, if they haven't been able to light a glass candle in like 100 years, I don't actually remember the timeline on that, but a couple generations, then is it really they're anti-magic because they're conspiring to be anti-magic, or just by the nature of what they do and how they do it? Most maesters turn out anti-magic, so even if there's no like top-down control, just by the nature of maesters teaching everyone's going to say, oh, I tried to do magic, it doesn't work, therefore stop thinking about magic. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a conspiracy theory in the way that Marwyn is portraying it for the things he's saying to be true.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see Marwyn also being miswording things to a degree. But on the flip side, I would say that because Marwyn is just a book character, I'm like, I feel like maybe he's, I don't want to say like feeding us exposition, but like he is probably feeding us some sort of realistic actualities. Um, at least it seems that
Oh yeah,
way.
no,
Yeah,
it's
it seems that way. So I'm like, I tend to believe him solely on the fact that he seems like a reveal the reader is supposed to need to believe.
oh yeah. If we get into like the meta textual stuff and like what's his role in this story as a story, like yeah, absolutely. But since we're definitely not going to get an end to the story, and we can interpret it however we want. If we're interpreting it as a real living world, I would maintain what I said. But because it is a fictional story, yeah, that's he definitely is throwing out crazy shit that hopefully will be expounded upon if the next book ever comes out.
Yeah, I'm saying that's what I'm like. He's got to be at least ringing of truth with what he's saying, even if it's not 100% exactly true. Because I can see him like overselling Sam a little bit, but no, lost track of what I was gonna say. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, the book's coming out though. In terms of that, maybe we mentioned this before, in the past, but like I think that we'll probably get like the Winds of Winter. Um, but yeah, that ending book is going to be pretty elusive, huh? You also think the ending book is not going to ever appear?
I don't. Part of it is also like the series keeps growing. Um, so it's become fairly common knowledge in the fandom that it was originally supposed to be a trilogy.
Yeah,
Um, like every book is always longer than it's supposed to be. So like all the sample chapters we have are pretty much all stuff that was originally written to be in the last book, but we wrote too much that it had to get expanded upon. So I'd say even if we get Winds of Winter and Dance of Dragons, do I really think that he can, you know, we say he has two books left, but again, a lot of that is stuff left over from before. So can he actually wrap up the story in a book and a half when he is constantly, saying, this 3 books is actually, 7 books or whatever. Like
yeah.
I don't think that even if we do get a Dream of Spring, then we'll be waiting for I don't know, Dream of Spring 2, Electric Boogaloo or something. Like I just don't think like it's particularly with the way he talks about being a gardener. Like I think it's just gotten out of hand for him, and
Yeah.
like I don't see him realistically being able to get a nice ending. It's just going to keep going on and on forever until people just give up. Um,
I wonder if that's why he let Dave and Dan make the series. He was like, "All right, that sounds like an interesting ending. I'll just let him do that, and then someone else can do something different, and we'll just turn it into that kind of thing."
it's I think we're being overly generous to his perceptions of Dave and Dan. Uh,
I mean, they
plus,
they
there's
they
there's
they had a
a lot
lunch
of
that turned into a dinner. That's that. He must have liked them.
mhm. I mean, he definitely liked them at the start. Um, but I think like I want to say it's come up in interviews just how much that it's not his story anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's sort of the only problem I see with that theory is George has kind of, and other people as well, some of his friends have sort of made it pretty clear that the Game of Thrones show story is not the Song of Ice and Fire book story. And that is kind of unavoidable. Um, I mean, the show story isn't really even the show story in some regards. Um, I know, like the Dragon Demands, another wonderful channel that we should shout out more. Great stuff. Although it's a lot more for anyone who's not familiar with his channel. It's a lot more sort of background stuff. So instead of talking about theories in the show in the way that we do, he talks a lot more about the production side and that sort of stuff. Um, and he's talked about how, like, based off of like cast interviews and crew interviews, that the like even like the big finale of Danny burning King's Landing seems to have been a last minute change, like after the script, after they'd started working on the episode, even.
But yeah, no, I'm familiar with this idea that that was a very very last minute change. Um, so I've heard some pretty compelling counter arguments against it, but I also just do not really trust Dave and Dan because there's so many changes that I'm just like, and this is something George R. R. Martin brings up a lot, where he's like the butterfly effect or the ripple effect. You know, he does his little George R. R. Martin voice. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
Dave and Dan didn't understand that, like, the ripple effect, man. Like, um, so he says that even in seasons one, that they did some things that, like, completely changed the trajectory of the end of the series. And that kind of made me be like, well, I mean, like, can you trust anything about anything? You know,
It's
if they made a bunch of changes that, like, made themselves write themselves into certain walls, then like then they switched on top of that. Like, I don't know, it's like it's be
I
very hard to
mean,
tell, very hard to tell. You know?
there's certain stuff where you could see them writing people into walls and stuff like that. Like I think Glidus had a great take on why the messing up the House of Black and White was really early on, that sort of forced them to write Arya killing the Night King,
Yeah.
which is an interesting take,
Huh.
and he makes some good points. Um, but part of it is also, I think, particularly in that change, it was a lot less, because of the way things had gone, and just some last minute change to, I don't know, get more views, make it more wow moment, which seemed to be a lot of what they were chasing by the end. Because the one I thought was sort of the biggest piece of evidence was, there's a lot of descriptions, or a lot of evidence from like the script, some of the like concept art, and like the interview with the CGI guys, that originally a lot of King's Landing burning included wildfire, like wildfire caches somewhere, which we know in show canon are just sort of around. Um, but instead of wildfire going off, she just dragon fires everything. Um,
Yeah. So I think I do recall this, and like that's also true in the book, as far as we know. I mean, like that kind of makes sense that they would add that detail from the book originally, and then they would have to deviate and write around the fact that exists.
mhm.
You know, when they change it to just being her attacking and nothing to do with the the other fire.
It's I mean, I suppose if we want to be generous to Dave and Dan, that all the other wildfire was in that terrorist attack on the Sept,
I
the
guess that's
one
true.
that
Yeah,
everyone knows is Cersei, anyways.
I guess that's true.
Um,
Cersei just used all the wildfire in King's Landing, all of it, every drop.
yeah, it's we'll ignore the fact that, like, I'm pretty sure Tyrion says that, there's enough to blow up the entire city, or
Does he say
something
that
like
line in
that.
the show?
I might be misremembering it. It was definitely enough to destroy the Red Keep, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Um, when it was before, like a little before Blackwater, when he finds out that they're making the wildfire,
Yeah, he
he
comments
he
on
gives some
caches.
comment about the. I don't think he comments specifically that there's like multiple caches, but because I think at the time it's just the one giant cache that they were making in preparation for what would become the Battle of the Blackwater. Um, Tyrion finds out that Cersei has ordered the creation of all this wildfire, and then he goes and sees the wildfire, and he makes some comment about the massive amounts of wildfire that they have stockpiled, but it might just be in a singular place.
Well, hopefully in the ending of the book series, if we ever get there, even if we only get to the King's Landing seen, but no further. um, I
Mhm.
hopefully it turns out a little better. Or hopefully, even more hopefully, I'm holding out, and I'm sure it's going to take quite a while. But remakes happen faster and faster these days. I'm holding out for the Game of Thrones reboot.
I don't know how well that would go. Like I agree. I know what you mean. Remakes are happening faster and faster. Um, but I don't know if there'd be enough people that would want to watch Game of Thrones again.
I think it's going to have
Um,
to wait like 10 years.
mhm. Well, I also think whether or not the books get finished is going to be a huge factor on that.
Oh yeah,
Um, because yeah, it's could HBO do a remake of Game of Thrones if they wanted to? Like they probably could. I could see that happening in a few years. But if they still don't have the actual ending, are they going to risk doing the same thing again, where they have to make up their own ending and roll those dice again? I don't think they will. I think if we get a remake, it'll be because there's an official book ending.
yeah, that's true. I could easily see that. That definitely sounds a lot more likely. That if he actually gives an official ending, then yes, then someone else will remake the show and they'll call it Ice and Fire or some shit.
Yeah, but what about that John spinoff? That's I assume that's all show canon. Because yeah, it'd be hard to do something taking place after the ending when we don't have a book ending yet.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm guessing that idea would be for a all show canon show because yeah, like you said, there's no real ending, so who knows? Um, I'm like so. Here's my feelings about the Jon Snow show. Kit Harrington should take the whole script and just change the title and change John's name and just it's just it's the show about a guy we don't know the backstory of in like a place like beyond a wall and like just roll with that. like I just don't make it a Game of Thrones thing because like I don't know like they're probably capable of making a show like it probably can be a thing. I just don't think it can be a good thing if it's attached to the Game of Thrones universe, if that makes sense. Like I think it will flop because it will just not work or meet expectations or it'll like I don't know. I can't see the Snow show working well because it's set in the Game of Thrones universe. If it was not, I could see it working well as just like a Kit Harington show where he lives in the cold. That's kind of fun, I guess, as a basic premise.
I agree, but under different reasons. I think again, it's because it's a Game of Thrones show, but I think more specifically because it's taking place after Game of Thrones. Because like House of the Dragon got huge interest, um, but because it's necessarily going to have to take place at the end of season 8, which nobody liked. I don't think there's going to be an interest because like, do we really want to see what happens after season 8? Like everything already kind of sucks. Like,
Yeah, no, that's very true.
uh,
That's very true.
but also just like, what do you think is going to happen? Would you like to make uneducated guesses with me?
Um,
Um, because
God.
yeah, there isn't a wall. Is there a wall? I actually don't. I know at least part of the wall blew up
Oh
because
shit, that's
the
right.
dragon
That's
fire
that's
is
right.
the entire. But they left through a gate in the wall, so there's at least part of the wall, I think.
Okay, so
Unless that's
there's
just a wonderful continuity error, because that seems like something they kind of would forget about. Just like that fleet, pretty sneaky that wall. Um,
Oh, yeah. No, I could easily see the wall just completely like what'll probably happen is the Snow show will kick off and it'll show that segment of the wall we watched blow up, but it'll all be back intact and it'll be reused footage from like back in the show.
mhm.
um no, but like what do I think the Snow show would be like? So I'm guessing that it probably would follow a slightly older John. Like it would probably pick up like a couple years outside of when the events happened when he got banished and stuff. And that's what's tripping me out is I'm just like, what the fuck is beyond the wall at that point? Like, it's just him up there with like animals, right? Like, what happened? You know, like that far north. Did like they'd have to tell like, did all the wildlings go back that way? You know, even though they all now live, whoever survived, I guess, like live somewhere more hospitable. Like, were all the wildlings killed? Like, did the Dothraki go up to the north? Were they driven out of the regular lands because like people hated them? Like, did they marry into the kingdom and repopulate everyone that was had died because like so many people had died and now like we're definitely gonna need some Dothraki to make babies? Like, there's like a lot of questions that like who's beyond the wall? Like, did the North like stay seceded? Weren't they seceded?
Yeah, the North is their own independent kingdom now,
Yeah, so like who's
which is really
enforcing?
weird because yeah, it's this the same family is ruling, the Seven Kingdoms and the North.
Yeah, the
Um,
North is just independent, and it's like, who's enforcing the Seven Kingdoms rules in the North? Like, would anyone care if Jon Snow just set up a shack at like fucking like Long Lake or some shit like that? Like, would anyone care? There's a lot of questions to address, and I think that the show would just simply slide over all of those questions and put us right back in the North that we saw prior to the wildlings coming south of the Wall. So like that kind of stuff is why I think a snow show wouldn't work for me. Is like most people would be like, oh, I don't know, that makes total sense. And I would be over here screaming about why that doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
well, so I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting questions, and by interesting questions, I mean things the showrunners didn't think about because the ending is kind of not thought out at all. The big one being what happens to post Bran Seven Kingdoms,
Right?
um, because so they elect the Bran as king, but so are they electing a new king after Bran? Because if not, that what does an independent North mean? Because I think doesn't Sansa mention that Bran can't have kids?
Yeah. Bran can't have any children.
Yeah. So if Bran can't have kids and they're not electing a new king, then naturally his heir, assuming it's still following, pre-election
Oh yeah,
Westerosi customs,
becomes Sansa and then
would be
Sansa's
Sansa.
children. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah,
So I think
that
that's
would.
interesting. The other, but focusing more on John is what do the wildlings do? Um, because so it's like there are some wildlings that go north of the wall with him. I think, unless he's going out in like a Night's Watch ranging at the end, but I'm pretty sure it was wildlings. He's with people anyways.
Oh, people
Um,
go with him.
and
Okay,
if I'm
I
allowed
thought they were
to,
just banishing Jon Snow to the wilds forever. And I was like, oh,
I'm
okay,
pretty
that's
sure there were
interesting.
other people with him. But I mean
So,
that is sort of the vibe.
so I guess like wildlings chose to return to the north, which would kind of confirm my theory that I think they would just start the show over in the exact same space that was occupied prior to the wall. The wildlings coming south of the wall.
It's I mean that's definitely what I think would happen if we're allowed to import some book canon over, um, where like Mance is anti-settling south of the wall because you can keep your king's laws and your king's taxes, or something to that if unless they're just going to cede a kingdom to the wildlings to rule outside of the Seven Kingdoms, yeah, they would want to go north and not be part of the Seven Kingdoms. At least a good portion of them would.
Yeah, I guess
So I
like
could see the wildlings living north, but like,
I'm like Tormund might have
yeah,
like his own wildling society, and like maybe Jon Snow would be like part of that. But I bet you they'd make him like a hermit on the outskirts of society, and everyone would still call him a crow, even though that wouldn't make any fucking sense. There wouldn't be a Night's Watch anymore. Like,
is there not a Night's Watch? I thought there was.
I don't know. They're like, why would there be at that point? I mean, like, what the Night's Watch watching against? The others have been destroyed. Like, it'd be funny because they'd probably reboot the Night's Watch too. Like I'm saying, my guess is that it would be the exact same thing as it was before the wall like fell and the wildlings came south, except now Jon Snow, rather than belonging to either faction, would be a lone wolf.
Where it's, I mean, I think the other problem, the one I keep dwelling on is we know the wildlings kept raiding south, um, which makes sense because south had all those nice shiny things. Get your iron tools. Eat people if you're one of the eating people. Um, like it would make sense that once, particularly after a couple of years, where things sort of return to normal, that the wildlings are going to want to raid the kingdom of the north some. Uh, and on one hand, I feel like it could be potentially interesting to see that from the point of view of John, but it also feels like that would be so boring because there's no way that John is gonna agree with oh yeah, let's go beat up my sister's kingdom. Um,
So that's funny that you mentioned that because we had the same thought. We just came to two totally different conclusions. Because I was like, you know what HBO would totally fucking do? Have Jon Snow go to war with Sansa for control of the North and then defeat her and take Winterfell and become Jon Bro, king of the fucking goddamn North, motherfucker. Which is everything now, because I'm also Aegon Targaryen, and like Bran just fucking went out of the picture for like I don't know. We rolled him off screen, and John's king of everything now. Like that's probably the ending of the Snow Show, right? Like that's how it would end.
I don't think so. If we had the same quality writers as late season Game of Thrones, I could see it happening. But so if we're assuming everyone actually has a consistent character and is well written, like John has already said he doesn't want to be king. He said how much he didn't want it several times. Uh, so it's yeah, like what's he gonna do? If he doesn't want to be king, he's not gonna go raiding. I just feel like it just sort of
Yeah, no,
him
it's
sitting in a little wildling shack ice fishing
there
or
really
something.
isn't a story because yeah, like I said, John's story, like the way that yeah, and there's like the way it is in the show. The way you're saying is like yeah, he doesn't want to be king, so it's like his story is basically just wants to be left alone and like not have a show about him. And the show
Yeah,
that they're gonna do is about this guy who wants to live alone and not be the main character in a show. So
it's
my guess is they're gonna have to write it where that particular fact changes. Like the writers of the show will encounter the conundrum of Jon Snow's established character doesn't want to be part of a show. So they're gonna have to, retcon that and make him into a real party animal who wants to like get married and have an heir and seize thrones and probably have sex with dragons. Like there's still dragons in the world, right? He could have sex with one. That's the end of the Snow Show right
Drogon
there.
somewhere. It's established. We don't know where. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
why not?
Drogon would come back, and then Jon Snow would engage in bestiality, and that would be the end of the Snow Show.
It's like I could see interesting stories happening. I just can't see them having John as more than like a side character.
Yeah, like
So again, assuming like some sort of Night's Watch comes back, I could see him being a non-incestuous version of oh crap! Now I forgot the guy's
Craster,
name. How could it?
Craster.
Yeah, he has a little stronghold and helps the watch. Yeah, he's the new Craster minus all that stuff Craster did.
Yeah.
Um, but
No,
again, that would be
that would be a
a
way more
fun detail
interesting.
for a show about some new Rangers.
That would be a
But
way more interesting show and use of the character. But like that, like yeah, like that's like what they could do that would be kind of fun. So like the snow show that I want would be what you're saying. It's a show about the newly reformed Night's Watch that's only been the Night's Watch for like a generation or two, and basically like they don't even they don't even think they're gonna be fighting anything. Like Queen Sansa died like fucking like a couple years back, and like she was really insistent on making this new Night's Watch, but like we don't believe that there's any real threat to everybody. And then like Jon Snow be living out there in the woods, and he'd be like, yeah, like 80 years old or some shit like that. But he's like still able to wield a sword because like movies and Jon Snow. And yeah, and then the new Rangers that would uncover the threat would have to like work with Jon Snow and they'd find out some fun secrets, and they'd end up like saving Jon Snow's like grandchild or some shit like that, because like the White Walkers are going to return like in the distant future, and there'd be some like, proto White Walker kind of enemies. Like, I don't know, like that would be like, that'd be as cool as you could get, in my opinion, if you were going to have like Jon Snow, a show, and like an actual book-based villain being like the other, or like the great other, or the Night's King. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
if you wanted to go Stranger Things with it, and you beat the Night's King, you beat the Gorgon, well, the next boss is like the great other, and so like the great other obviously is concocting other, fucking ways of bringing the others back. But the show already went with the Children of the Forest being the villains, so maybe it would have to be about the Children of the. I don't know. It's confusing and hard, but like,
I think
the
it
best
would be
Snow show would
interesting to
involve
have
would
though.
involve Snow as not a main character. The best Snow show would involve
Yeah.
Snow as not the main character.
I think the evil children of the forest would be really a really nice idea. But again, I think that the differences between show canon and book canon would make that hard to pull off. Like I can't see the children of the forest turning out to be as bad. I mean, I guess we do get it confirmed in the show that the children of the forest made the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess there are hints of it, but I still think, particularly because as far as we're aware, they're all dead now that after the Hodor incident. Um,
Yeah.
are there other children of the forest? Do we
I
know?
I don't
Um,
know. I assumed that they were all in the caves, and but the thing is, like, there's not that many of them to begin with in general, but like in theory they could have just like run in deeper into the caves or something. So I'm like, I don't know, like, that's a hard one, but I think the show wanted us to believe they were all dead.
it's the one thing I could see being interesting, but it's only going to be interesting to like super lore nerds, which luckily I am. Is is if it investigated some of those dropped plots. Um,
Ah, okay.
so like the big one would be like the White Walker symbols. They keep making like spirals and all those patterns, and I think that could be an interesting show. Is all right, all the White Walkers are gone, and it's just Jon Snow. As basically a detective show. He's up north trying to figure out what all that magical stuff was about.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting. I guess like since like Bran is like the great revealer of exposition, I feel like he already kind of ruined a lot of that, because like it would have been more fun if we didn't know where the White Walkers came from and Jon Snow could discover that. Like, imagine if Bran hadn't showed us the origins of the Night's King, and then the Jon Snow show could be about discovering the origins of the Night's King. But um, yeah,
I think I
that's an
think that
interesting
would
thought, though. It's an interesting thought of that he could be doing some kind of discovering of what the White Walkers were doing up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that the cat's out of the bag on that one would make the reveal sort of less impactful. But I still think it would be interesting to see John figure that out.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it would have to be like the first episode because it would be terrible if they spent a long time. Ooh, how did the White Walkers come about?
7 seasons.
Um,
Yeah.
but episode one, John finds that out, and then goes down the rabbit hole of all the other magical stuff. Um, but I do think the fact that he's officially away from the exposition machine could give us some more of that, because we can't just pop down to King's Landing without, I don't know, getting arrested.
Yeah. Which would be interesting, because like the Unsullied leave the continent, right? So like my question would be like, does anybody care about that pact that was made with Jon Snow like 20 years, 10 years, 10 years in the future, 20 years in the future? Does anyone care? Does Jon Snow just like reemerge in society, being in the north? Like, I wonder if the Snow show would throw us for a total side loop, and it would be like Jon Snow's sitting there, and he's got like a wife and like grown kids and stuff, and he's kind of older, and he's like, "It's going to be a hard winter, Tormund," and Tormund's like, "Oh yeah, it's going to be a really hard winter. I'm going to go hunting." And everyone knows that it means that Tormund's just going to wander off and die in the woods, so like, he won't be a burden on his family. And then Jon Snow will be like, You could use company on a long hunt. And then then their journey would be them like going south, like as the winter follows at their backs, and they'd get like, as far as they get. Like that would be fun, maybe. And no one would know who he was anymore, but he'd still be illegal, so he couldn't tell anyone he was Jon Snow, and he just have to experience the world as like John Rando.
I think you just sold me on the end. I think that's the best one of our theories yet.
Oh, okay, fuck! We gotta call Kit Harington. Kit, quick, get my number, bro. I'll pitch you my ideas. No, but no, I would not be, I would say, like, happy with that show as to say a show that Kit Harington comes up with that just features a Jon Snow like character in a Game of Thrones like universe where he's like, doing some shit. But if we had to make the Snow show in the Game of Thrones world set up by the end of Game of Thrones, flash forward that shit 30 years. And because it'd be cool. You'd get a scene where he'd like make it to Winterfell, and there'd be this big internal conflict of like, can he reveal himself to his sister? And we'd find out she's dead. And then he'd like have dinner with her kids, and they'd never know, and they'd be like, travelers, always welcome at the Winterfell. Like, do you have somewhere to stay for winter? And they'd be like, oh, no, we got plans, places to be. And they'd be kind of an awkward thing for a minute, but they'd see them on their way with some supplies and stuff, and there'd be like a sad thing where one of the Starks that doesn't know they're seeing their uncle off to his death would be like, "Mama, like he's not going to survive the journey," like I don't know, it could be a thing. Like I wouldn't be like mega happy with it, but I'd watch it begrudgingly,
Mm-hmm.
It would be cool. It'd be
I think that is sort of the shadow hanging over it, is that, the Jon Snow probably shouldn't exist. His character ended and isn't doing anything, that exciting. Like if you had to do a spin-off, like the Arya spin-off of her exploring west of Westeros would probably be the most, there is actually something happening. I still would prefer that show don't exist. But of the available, sequel shows, it makes the most sense.
Yeah. See, to me, and this is just me, but I kind of like, because I'm like a big Sansa stan. Like, I really enjoy Sansa, like as a character in the books. As a character in the books, I really enjoy Sansa. I think the Sansa show, I think Queen in the North would be a good show, and you would be able to pull a lot of real world parallel from like some of the popular queens like Catherine the Great, Queen Elizabeth, and there's just some, like, I'm not a big massive monarch knower of names and policies, but there's some pretty prominent famous queens that are like everybody knows them. There's some pretty fun queens people don't know about, and there's some kind of in between queens. Maybe you've heard the name or whatever, but you don't know the whole story. And I think that you could use that plus some creative writing and some references to make some shit like so like there's like this whole idea of, did Shakespeare have an affair with one of the queens? And there's a movie about that, right? So there's Ariane having an affair with the Kingsguard, and like, what if we did a thing about Sansa having to solidify herself as ruler in the North and has to get married, and she has to kind of like give up a paramour. Maybe she has a lover and there's like a falling out, and she has to like give that person up in order to do a marriage, and there's a whole thing about like how does the marriage go, and like, I don't know, you could make it very Game of Thrones, and you could make it very much Ring of book material, and you could make it very much Ring of history and all that sort of shit in terms of real world references to times that queens may or may not have had a lover, or maybe not have, had to make a strong, complicated relationship choice in regards to their husband or divorce or children's matters. Like, what are they, who's educating their kids, or like, there's probably a billion things that you could do that would make a really cool Queen in the North show. And then that's where some of this politics of like between Westeros and the North would come into play, because obviously I don't think there'd be like, there wouldn't be probably the tension of a looming war over Westeros between Westeros and the North, but maybe there's like possibility of the tensions of like an uprising in Westeros and that threatening the North, or people who want the North to return to Westeros, like the Freys are being all uppity and threatening a independent invasion, and she's got to work with Bran to, negotiate the politics, and Bran's
Aren't
having a
all the
lot
Freys
harder of a
dead in the
time than
show
he'd ever
canon?
imagined. Like maybe he's having like a really hard time controlling Westerosi politics, even though he's like an omnipotent godchild.
So
Tyrion's gotten too drunk to function.
I like a lot of that as you're describing it, but I just don't know if you could pull it off given show canon. So particularly, like, the Freys are all dead. Arya murdered them all, and it was a
That's
great
true. That's
girl
right. She
boss
killed
moment.
every last one of them, didn't she?
Yeah, every Frey that means a damn thing, I believe,
Well,
is the official line.
there's got to be one or two surviving for like, see, like that I feel like is an easy retcon. You retcon it like, or wait, did they actually show her murdering like literal babies?
Um,
Because you can't retcon that.
no,
But
I
assuming
don't
they,
think there were babies.
yeah,
It was
assuming
because
she
she
only
poisons the food
killed
at a feast.
assuming she only killed like every adult male and female, which is still just absolutely appalling. Assuming that she only committed that level of decimation of House Frey, you have everyone under the age of probably like 10 or 12 or some shit still alive. Many of whom have all had their families gassed, like just gruesomely, like horrifically murdered in, like, in their household, fed to each other in some instances. And I think some of those kids would channel that hate onto any Starks. And they'd look at the two Stark rulers of the two potential places, and they would be throwing a fucking Frey fit.
I think we know who. I think would Frey's wife be? His child bride be the new Lord, or I guess Lady of the Crossing? Because again, I'm pretty sure she specifically spares like some woman who's, oh, I'm not going to waste good wine on you. As Arya pretending to be Frey and wearing his face.
Yeah.
So I guess we have at least one random traumatized person to that would be next in line, probably.
Yeah,
But
I just
depending on
think that
how
like
succession works.
I think that like if you fast forwarded a couple years, there'd be some Freys who were like 10 or 12 at the time of this massacre who were hiding in their bedrooms or whatever, and like fucking they would grow up and they'd be resentful and hateful and they would be arguing, and they're like, I don't know, the Frey show would be cool. Hey, that's a cool show right there. Like, what happens to all the children who Arya didn't gruesomely murder and turn into pies in House Frey, and like, how do they duke it out? And like, do they try to, kill the other Starks? And do they hire the Faceless Men to come after Arya?
I don't know. I
See,
can't
now we're just
imagine the phrase
now we're
being
just doing
powerful,
HBO's
though.
job for them. I feel like we shouldn't release this because the HBO will find it and they'll come up with a whole bunch of awful successor shows. It'll be all our fault. The Frey show will be real.
All right. Theories that are harder to make a spin-off show about. What do you think of more than one more than what do you fuck me? What do you think of more than one wall?
More than one wall. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
it's I believe this fan theory comes in I believe like in the Night's Watch Oath. It's the Watchers on the Walls, I believe. Like, isn't it
What?
plural walls?
What?
Um,
I don't remember this,
hold
but
on.
I've never heard of this theory. That's interesting. Okay, so we are the Watchers on the Walls. Yeah, like I okay. So if I had to if I had to take a blind stab at that shit, let's say it does say Watchers on the Walls, and we're trying to think of why it says
All
that.
right.
It says that.
According to the wiki, yes, it's I am the Watchers on the Wall. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. Yada yada.
So it's wall, not walls.
No, it is walls,
It's
plural.
walls. Okay, so
Yeah.
this makes me think of how Winterfell has a double wall, and it's talked about a lot that Winterfell has this double wall, and we know that Winterfell was like where winter fell, quote unquote. Like at some point or another, it seems as though like, and I've heard some theories about like the last hero like making peace with the others at Winterfell and like or like stopping them in a fight. But like, I would wonder if it says walls because this is an ancient reference to like oaths sworn beside like the last hero as he went to find and like confront the others and like stop the onslaught or something like that. And that maybe they stood upon the walls of Winterfell to meet Winter, but they figured it out some other way. So that's my throwing a knife. I'm throwing a knife like blindly in the dark trying to hit something.
So I have sort of two theories, none of which actually influence the show or the series books, any lore, other than just being neat details. One of which is just there used to be is that the castles had more walls. Because if I remember correctly, so we know there's the Night King or the Night's King. I forget if it was the show guy or the book guy that has the S. Um, the 13th Lord Commander, we'll say.
Yes, yes.
The 13th Lord Commander takes over and starts a rebellion. Um, and I believe at some point that is mentioned in regards to the fact that Castle Black only has the wall and there's no defenses on the other side. So knights watchmen can't like go and fight the Seven Kingdoms. Um, so that's one theory is that they used to have walls until the 13th commander. So the walls are just the other walls of the castles that don't exist anymore. Um, my other theory, if is more history based than anything actually happening in in A Song of Ice and Fire itself, is because like the wall is pretty clearly based off of Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
The that wall at the north of Rome and Britain that divides what would become England from what would become Scotland. Um,
I think Martin has spoken about that a few times. Like when I very first heard the wall, I thought of Hadrian's Wall, but I'm pretty sure he talked about standing on Hadrian's Wall and feeling like really like in awe and like imagining what it would have been like to look out off of Hadrian's Wall back in the day. So yeah, I think that's pretty canon. Like that Hadrian's Wall is the inspiration for the wall.
Yeah, but what's interesting and what a lot of people, what tends to be forgotten about, unless you're a hardcore history nerd, is there is a second wall. There's the Antonine Wall, which is a bit further north of Hadrian's Wall, that was abandoned and then more or less forgotten about. And part of that is there's different construction. So is where Hadrian's Wall is mostly like a proper stone wall in the way we think of stone walls. uh, Adrian's Wall is an earthen rampart. Like it's just piled earth. So once it gets abandoned, it just sort of looks like a weird hill that's really long and skinny. And like today, it's really hard to find segments of the Antonin Wall because of that, because it just sort of over time it just erodes. The wall part falls into the ditch part, and
That
it
is
just
that
looks
is
more or less flat.
fascinating.
Um,
That is fascinating because I'd heard the term Antonin Wall, I'm sure more than once, but not being super well versed in Roman history, if you'd asked what that was, I would have been like, I don't know, I'm an idiot. Um, I wonder, I wonder though, if you looked at a map of north of the wall, do you think that there's potentially any way of tracing a theoretical used to be there made of earth wall?
I've never looked into it, so it seems that something that might be possible, um, and whether it would actually be Earth like the Antonin Wall, I have no idea. It would just be something that, because isn't that explicitly sort of something that got bigger over time?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it did.
so yeah, so if we imagine the second wall
I'm
is
really
just a
curious
magical
about
bit
this.
that never got physical, you just sort of forget about it over time. Um, So I think that would be really interesting, and it would have a lot of, again, it would make that historical parallel a lot more poignant. But I just don't know if there's anything actually in the show lore to actually support that, other than the fact it says walls instead of wall.
That's actually fascinating. I don't see that would be a very fun, if not a full video, just like a mini video, just to talk about it. Be like, yeah, this is interesting potential. That interesting potential.
Uh, if I really wanted to stretch things, I think that could work with the way the wildlings and the others work. Um, just because again, this is taking a very simplified view of a lot of complex stuff. But we usually consider the Hadrian's Wall is that border between Roman Britain and the Picts. Uh, but particularly in post-Roman times, when you look at sort of where what we would consider the people that we would identify as being Britons and the people that we identify as being Picts, that border is much lines up much nicer along the Antonine Wall than Hadrian's Wall. There's a lot of people that aren't considered Picts, and even have literature talking about how great they are at killing Picts that are north of Hadrian's Wall. So if we want to sort of try applying that to Westeros, we could say, we have the wall, which sort of separates the seven kingdoms from the wildlings, and then this sort of no longer standing wall that would theoretically separate the wildlings from the others. But
Oh,
again, I just don't know if there's anything in the text that would actually support that, other than I think it would be really cool to have two walls,
I mean,
which
that's a
is
fun
true, but also
thought.
not great evidence.
That's a fun thought. Like I said, I wonder maybe it's in reverse. Maybe there's evidence of a prior wall structure further south, and this is the second wall. I don't. Who knows? Who knows? You have to dig some pretty dig deeping or deep
Mhm.
digging, pretty deep digging. But yeah, that's still pretty fascinating to think about. So we're getting close to kind of like getting up on like half hour, which we're past half hour here. So do you want to wrap it up on a topic, or is there anything else that we should go over since we've kind of just been bopping in and out? What else is on your mind?
I don't know. The only other theory that I really have strong opinions on, so I'd like to see what you think about it. Is what do you think of the theories that Bran wasn't the one who's actually supposed to go meet Bloodraven up north?
I don't know much about them, so you'd have to pitch a little at me. Is this the idea that is this part of the idea that Bloodraven was attempting to garner multiple apprentices, like the theory that Euron was one of his attempts at garnering an apprentice, or is this a whole different wheelhouse of theory?
It sort of connects with that sort of stuff because I mean we know he is looking at multiple apprentices, and I think that the Euron theory makes a lot of sense. But this is more in relation to Jojen, at least the way I've sort of looked at it.
Okay,
I
okay,
mean, there's a bunch of different versions of it, but
okay, okay.
because dreams are all there's all the symbolism. Bloodraven is probably that three-eyed crow, but he doesn't know he's a three-eyed crow if he is, unless that's the time traveling Bran or other theories. But, there's a lot of ambiguity to how things look. And when Jojen is talking about why he came to Winterfell and why he thinks he needs to take Bran up north. It's not he saw Bran, but he saw a dream that he interpreted as being Bran, which if I remember correctly, is a winged wolf that's being held down by stone chains or something that he's
Yeah.
supposed to help free. So there's various theories that the winged wolf isn't actually Bran, and it's usually one of the other Stark kids. Um,
Oh, like Rickon.
yeah, Rickon's popular because he has some good some good wolf symbolism, and he's buddies with Shaggy Dog.
So
Uh,
how does those theories get around the fact that Bloodraven does seem to know Bran was going to be there? Like he seems to be like, Bran, I talked to you in your dreams, and I was part of your first thoughts, and I can't do a good Roy Dotrice impression, but I kind of sound like this in the books. Um, because he does say some pretty potent stuff about being connected to Bran. Do they assume that that's just a pivot, like he's just like, oh fuck, Wolf Boy showed up. Well, I don't want to get mauled by this dog. Better be like, cool to see you, bro. Or do they have a different excuse or explanation?
Um, Again, there's so many theories. You could take it in a lot of ways. If I were making this theory, and I'll talk about it as though I am, because I'll talk about my favorite versions of it. I think there's a couple ways you could go with it. Uh, I mean, the classic one is we know that again, Bloodraven seems to be casting a wide net. There's 1,000 other dreamers that didn't make the cut before he went to Bran, based off of those skeletons and stuff. Uh, so maybe he just had he had his eye on a bunch of people, and Bran happened to be the one that showed up, and maybe he would have had a speech for Arya or Sansa as well. Oh, you wanted to be a knight, but they said you couldn't. But with me, you can be a cool wolf monster that eats people.
Ah, Kyle, I was
So that's
part of your
one.
first sip of a Monster Energy drink.
Uh, and then the other one is because we know there's all sorts of wacky visions going on. Is Jojen's vision necessarily the same person as Bran's vision? Could Jojen be getting messages from somebody else, and it's just sort of happened to align with Bloodraven? Uh, so the ones. So I know you were saying you were a Sansa stan earlier. Sansa is a contender for this a lot, um, because she also has a lot of bat symbolism.
Yes,
With the Wents and everything.
like how
Uh,
she's described as flying away from the wedding by turning into a wolf bat.
yeah, perfect symbolism. And then there was one which I'll have to look up the line again. Uh, But at one point, I don't even remember what book it is now. But I've talked about it before in some Discord chats, so I'm sure I could find it if I look hard enough. So I'll try to do that and send you a message about it sometime tomorrow. Um, but like at one point, Arya is described as or something like, "Oh, I wish I was a wolf and I could fly away." And I was just like, "That's such weird phrasing. Wolves don't fly unless they're a winged wolf." So that's what
Yeah.
got me into the theory. So I googled it and found out that there's theory crafters noticed so much more evidence than I did with my one line, that the theory already exists and I didn't come up with anything new.
Yeah, so no, I mean,
Which
I
classic
can
fandom.
I can see a certain something in there, like I would call it like the buckshot buckshot Raven theory, or something like that, like where he's doing the exact same thing to all the Stark children. He's giving them a wolf and he's hacking their dreams, and Bran's the one who, because he falls into a coma, ends up in this perfect state for Bloodraven to really get into his mind and becomes the one who's like chosen. But the seed was planted. If that shotgun effect had worked, he might have nabbed up 2 or 3 Starks, or he might have nabbed up just one, like just Sansa or just Arya, because he had essentially set the trap to the same way for each one. He throws enough wolves out there that everyone gets one, and then he just starts hitting the dreams, and whoever fucking takes, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about it. Particularly when you think about how easy it is for almost everyone to be comaed, uh, except Rickon, I guess. I don't know how you would get him in a coma, but all the other Stark kids are out, doing dangerous things like climbing on walls or going to war.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, even just like training in the yard, or like Arya being adventurous, like as a girl, just like running around doing stuff that girls don't normally do. I mean, like the Bloodraven could be relatively assured that a Stark kid will probably, like, fall into a coma, or a Stark kid will just be receptive enough to not need some sort of extreme incident like that. Because he's going to be expecting them to be doing whatever people are doing, like, in world. So, like, I'm guessing that he would be expecting, like, everybody to be potentially exposed to some sort of danger that could incapacitate them, or just to be hyper receptive. Like Sansa having red hair alone, because she's from like that world, like kind of makes me think that she's always a good target for any telepathic manipulator, because like red-haired people are just special, and people seem to know that, like when they deal with the telepathy, and like Mad and Nell Loston and all that sort of stuff. I mean, like there's like, there's a whole thing with red hair in the universe.
That's something I think is kind of interesting, but also I kind of disagree. I don't know if red hair does mean anything. Like people definitely say it means a bunch of stuff, uh, which is sort of why I hope it doesn't mean anything, because it's very fantasy trope in general that magic stuff is always real. Um, so there's every time in a fantasy series that there's legends of a dragon living under that there hill. There's a dragon living under that there hill. Like when you play Skyrim, like nobody believes the dragons are back because that would be weird and dumb. But no, dragons are real, and same thing with Game of Thrones. The Grumpkins and Snarks end up being real, and the White Walkers are coming to murder everyone. So I just think it would be fun that sometimes superstitions are just dumb superstitions, and the red hair, it only matters because everyone thinks it matters. It's a shadow on the wall.
And I think that George R. R. Martin, being so infatuated with redheaded women and married to one, would be sitting there in his office being like, "Well, this is a great way to inject some red hair into the magic." Like I can see it. It's like there's like a romanticizing of red-haired women because you're married to one, or something like that. Like you could say it's like a cute tribute to your spouse or something like that. But Martin is just funny about it, where he's just like, he does seem to like to slap red hair and special powers together. It's just like a thing, it's Martin.
It's I mean, if we want to get really into our tinfoil hats about red hair, um, I would say, do we know if Melisandre has red hair? Like I know her hair
Yeah,
is red, but
that's a real big question. So I am not positive that Melisandre has actually that red of hair, because isn't it described as just being like probably dyed, like not like that's the wording, but isn't it described as being just like beyond realistically red? Or am I wrong?
that's what I was thinking. There's some hints that it's dyed. Um, and again, if we bring in, I know we talked about it last time. If we bring in some of our interpretations from House of the Worm, that I was talking about, where certain things have come from older things that have been lost. I think that would be a neat touch. That the red hair idea comes from this tradition of these foreign people, dyeing their hair red when they were magic specialists. I think that would
Oh,
be pretty cool.
that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Um, yeah. George R. Martin does love to play with the hair color. He's a hair color enthusiast.
It comes up so often.
Well, I guess on that note, we'll kind of wind things down. So in the future, we talked about doing a jousting thing prior to this recording. So there will probably be some kind of collaborative video based around jousting. So anyone who's still listening to the stream or recording at this point, whatever you want to call it, look out in the future for this jousting thing coming out, and that will be a collaborative project we'll work on, at some point or another. So I've been Random Internet Guy, or I am Random Internet Guy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, or I guess for me having you on. Who knows where this will actually end up going up? But yeah, it's been a wonderful time getting to talk to you. Love to read more comments. I'm very excited to talk about tourneys. I noticed there was a lot of comments on our talk about tourneys in our first collaboration. So it seems like it's something that you all are interested to see, and we're real interested to bring it to you. So hopefully we get on that pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening so much, everybody, and we will talk to you soon in the future when we come back with you about tourneys. So have a good one, and thank you so much.